Well, thank you so much. This is Amy with WeBuyLandOnline.com, and Mr. Feldman has graciously agreed to chat with us for a second about the experience working with us. Now, before we got on camera, you were just saying that you practice law in Alaska, and do you still practice law in Washington?
I do, but mostly I'm teaching at the University of Washington Law School.
Oh, that's fun. Teaching the younger generation. I love that. So
Yeah,
now I know how you heard from us, but can you tell everybody listening how you heard from us?
yeah. My memory is that this is a piece of property I've owned for a long time and actually hadn't thought about for a very long time. And I received an inquiry from you just asking if I'd be interested in selling it. And I will say that, like everybody else who has an email account these days, we all get lots of unsolicited inquiries, solicitations, everything from people, Nigerian princes who want to offer
Right, right.
money
Give
to.
you some money. Yeah.
So, I looked at it and I don't know why I looked at it and thought, well, this actually looks like it has a little bit of ring of credibility to it, but it did. And so I followed up with you, and because at that point I was probably ready to think about selling the property.
Right.
And
Right.
I will say that both as a lawyer and just as a person who lived in Alaska for a long time, um, it wasn't initially it wasn't all that comfortable to be thinking about doing a transaction like this with someone I'd never met and actually didn't know
Sure.
anything
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, exactly.
So you had a little bit of an uphill climb, so to speak, to convince me this was a viable idea.
Right, right. Well, and I appreciate that. A lot of people don't think about it. We're just regular people, and we don't know the people we're working with either. So it is a little bit of a trust factor on, both our sides. We live in separate states, so it's not like you could come into our office or anything like that. And the property's in a different state than you were in, which is what we hear a lot of times from sellers. You probably got a letter from us, something like that. And yeah, initially with all the emails, but you and I responded, to each other really well, and it seemed to go very fine. So you had said this isn't property you were using, and that's pretty much what made you decide to sell.
Yeah, I actually never used the property. I'd acquired it years back in exchange for services, and I didn't have any need for the property. Never
Sure.
really wanted it, but I sat on it for a long time, and I had some things going on in my own life here, mostly having to do with estate planning, that made me think like it was a good time to just to part ways with the property. And when you came along and made the inquiry, I was ready to do something about it. Although um, it would have taken somebody with a little initiative to get me moving on it. That's for sure.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad we did that. It was really good thinking on your part. You and I had chatted about this because a lot of times folks don't think about it, and then their kids are talking to me like, how can I sell this piece of land that has not been through probate and all these things. So now, so you said you're initially hesitant. What kind of made you feel better in the process about hey, we can actually complete this transaction together?
Yeah, I mean, it really was just you, Amy. You pick up a sense or a vibe engaging with people, and some of it just has to do with, is this being handled in a professional, business-like way? Were the communications timely? Yes, they were. You always were responsive to any inquiries or questions I asked. You followed through every time you said you would do something, you did it. So over the course of two or three exchanges, interactions back and forth, it increasingly uh, felt comfortable to me, and you get all the credit for that.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. That's a blessing to us because we want to always, be communicative, and how would we want to be treated as a customer, and that sort of thing. So what would you tell someone about, like, you and I, like I said, and you said we communicated really well together. So was the process itself fairly easy? Now I've had transactions, and you being an attorney, some things don't go super smoothly, but how did this process go?
Well, this one was real smooth. I mean, part of it was just the fact that I mean, first of all, this wasn't a high dollar amount at
Right,
issue. So, we both could afford to be a little more casual and comfortable about it because nobody was going to lose their shirt on this transaction, no matter what.
right, right, right.
So that was part of it. And it was also aided by the fact that there was no outstanding debt or tax lien. So it was a very clean transaction
Mhm.
on both sides. But, it moved smoothly. Uh, I think mostly because over the course of our communications, we built up a certain comfortable level of trust, such that, I was I mean, I did something that I never ever would probably advise a client to do, which I signed a deed without
Right,
getting anything in return.
right.
But by that point in time, I felt comfortable that, yeah, if I proceed this way, you're going to do your part, and it actually worked out just as it was supposed to. So, I mean, the main takeaway from my perspective is that although I didn't know anything about you or your business before we started to work together, you turned out to be a very trustworthy and reliable individual with whom to do business, and that was nice to experience.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate your kind words, but also the same goes to you, because from our standpoint, nobody wants to be scammed. We all ask that question, right? We're on the internet. Is this a scam? And we want to know that when we send a wire to our seller, that we are getting a deed as well. So it does take trust on both parts, and I appreciate you being so easy to work with. So can you think of anything else that you would maybe tell people about working with us if they see this on our website and they're like, wow, we're thinking about this, what should we do? Is there anything any advice you would give them?
Um, I'm not sure that I really have much advice. I mean, obviously, if I had had
Not
questions,
legal.
and not legal advice for sure. I mean, but if I'd had questions, and I had a couple of questions along the way, but if I had more questions, I would encourage people to ask them. My experience was very limited. Obviously, it's one transaction and
Sure,
it
sure.
went
Yeah,
quickly, but my experience was that you are very knowledgeable about this process. You've obviously done this a lot with people before, so if people have questions, they obviously should ask. And I don't know. I mean, my experience was the way I would describe it, quite honestly, I mean, was that it was effortless. You caught me at a moment. I decided I want to sell it. You told me what you
time to
wanted to
do it.
do.
Yeah.
You did it. I did my part. It just happened. It was about as painless as buying something on Amazon.
Oh, good. Nice. And you got your payment in a timely manner.
I did. All the payments came exactly when you said they would come.
Okay,
Uh,
perfect.
and I was I was impressed. I mean, even though I lived in Alaska for a long time, I understand how cautious someone might be thinking about getting a letter from someone where North Pole, Alaska, saying
Right, right.
we want to do business with you. And certainly as a lawyer, I bumped into a lot of lawyers from outside of Alaska who weren't really sure if we were really lawyers. Did we really
Yeah.
go to that kind of
Yeah.
license? Because it helped amount of skepticism, and sometimes rightfully so. But despite the fact that you are doing this from a pretty remote location relative to the rest of the country, you handled it as well as anybody in a big city would. So it was a very, very, very positive
Well,
experience.
thank you so much. We appreciate your time so much. We won't keep you. And just wanted to, again, thank you for the opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for tracking me down.